I always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.
It's the 69th episode, but it's a debut of sorts. Behold, Four-Eyed Bump. Welcome back to another edition of Bookmarks with Bump, a very special edition. This week's episode marks the 69th edition of Bookmarks with Bump, a social commentary podcast where I have compiled a list of the greatest threads of all time, and I've bookmarked them, and I've stowed them away for years, never knowing the perfect time to read them, never knowing when to share them. Well, what a more perfect time to read them and share them than on a platform like a podcast, and that was how the idea was spawned, and boom, it's right here just like that. Here I am, in your face, every Sunday at 4 a.m., so you know what's up when you are. And I go through these threads that are typically about fitness, mindset, goal setting, and I add my expertise from my life experience. I mean, what more can I say about my own life experience? I got medals on the wall and a certificate behind me. That's a guy you should listen to. But when we talk about life experience, we'll just dive right into it. It's with a heavy heart. Today, on Tuesday, September 30th, when you hear this, it's October something. I don't know, 3rd. If Wednesday's the 1st, then it's the 4th. On Sunday. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'll find out when it drops, but nonetheless, I'm recording this earlier in the week. And it is with a heavy heart that I must announce I am rescinding my entry to the Hartford Half Marathon on October 11th. I'm dealing with something here, with this Achilles / ankle / possibly foot issue. And it's continued to, it hasn't progressed as in gotten worse. Okay, I've been out of the boot. It doesn't hurt to walk. I feel perfectly fine walking. I feel perfectly fine lifting weights. There's nothing really hampering me from that aspect when it comes to low impact, but I did get out and start to run again. I took a couple weeks off of running. I took exactly 18 days in between runs, and that's the longest time in a long time where I haven't ran. And surprisingly, maybe it's not surprisingly, maybe I should give myself credit on this one. However, surprisingly, I was not beating myself up the entire time. Yes, it does make me go crazy a little bit, but I'm still able to move and be active. So I've maintained with what I'm able to do, according to what the doctor told me and according to how my body is feeling and responding to these things. I'm still hitting legs twice a week and not getting any ill effects from that. However, I did go out and run this past Saturday. I've gone for 2 runs on Saturday, and I went out for one yesterday on Monday. And on Saturday, I did 5 miles. At that point, I am still in cardiovascular shape enough to, I have enough endurance to run a half marathon. Would I be able to beat my best time? No, absolutely not. But I would be able to run and finish in a half marathon confidently. However, this run, I decided to do 5 miles because it's typically a long run day, but 5 miles at this point in a schedule where you're 2 weeks out is an everyday no problem run. And for me and where I want to be, it should be anyway. However, I went out and 3 miles, the first mile, 2 miles felt really great. I kept it light. I was right around 8:45 pace for the entirety of the run. Not pushing the pace too hard, not really feeling much strain in breathing. I kept up with myself there. So without any warning sign, without any indication of an injury, any trauma at all, I just started to get a pain in my calf, my ankle, and sort of towards my heel. And this was a major irritating pain that kind of radiated up the back left side of my leg. And that's where the swelling was initially a couple weeks ago when I first ran into this issue and got put in the boot. And that's what I felt again on Saturday. However, once I stopped running, there was no issue with walking. There was a lingering pain, a hot pain, if you would. That lump is still there, and it grew since then, obviously because I'm irritating whatever that lump is. And in my mind, whatever the problem is stemming from, whatever issue is being caused by that lump, whether it's scar tissue, which is hopefully the case, is that there's just some sort of mass of scar tissue there that'll have to get raked and worked out, which is going to suck so bad. As far as rehabilitation goes and physical therapy, what they will probably end up doing to me is something that I've been through before with my shoulder, and it's painful. They take a cold metal lumpy surface and they just dig it into the affected area. And I know right there's a lot going on with the ball joint of the ankle and the ligaments behind the leg, the calf muscles. But in the long run, it's a benefit, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now is the long run. And I think that's what's really kept me out of the rut here, where I hate to not run. It's just something about me. I feel like, even though I understand how the cardiovascular system works, and I understand the way that we're able to retain our physical condition for longer than you would think. Now, that's not something I'm going to promote, because I think being active is something we should continue to do every day. But you could take a couple weeks off and still be the same guy. However, that's not how I want to approach things ever. I do focus a lot on recovery, on foam rolling, on stretching, on sauna, on soaking, whatever it is. I put a lot of work into recovery because I put a lot of work into myself and what these goals are. I just think it's in my best interest to stop running right now, which is a decision that's not easy to come to. But 3 miles into that 5 mile run, I felt that pain, and 1.5 miles into my 3 mile run on Sunday, I felt the same exact pain. And it's in the same place. I still have that swollen node behind my ankle, which is like, it is very close to the Achilles, and that's not anything that I want to play with. It's upsetting. I was looking forward to running in this race. I didn't really go into it with expectations of exceeding what I had done in the Surftown half in the beginning of September, but I did go into it knowing that going month to month like that is a tough task, and if I want to be able to run marathons, I should stay in half marathon shape, and that will continue to be the goal moving forward. This is not changing me at all. This is not changing what the main thing is for me, and I think the way I'm going about it is a big example of the growth and how I'm looking forward at this goal. I'm not pushing through and risking my longevity for the moment. I'm staying in the moment by doing what I'm supposed to do and listening to my body, and not panicking about my future. As a matter of fact, where I stand right now is very confident in my future and very encouraged for whatever it is that's in front of me. I am extremely determined to, no matter what. If it's worst case scenario, I've thought of it. If it's best case scenario, I've thought of it. And either way there is to go about it, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back to where I was September 7th when I ran that race, so I could go beyond that and exceed what I've done already. I've been refueled since I started this show, really. I had a period of time where I've been doing this for 6 years. I had a period of time where I forgot my goals and I forgot who I was. When you change your life, so drastically, sometimes you could suffer from a bit of imposter syndrome. You can lose what your identity is because of you shedding what your identity was. I had my nose in a whole lot of business where it didn't belong, literally and figuratively. And I in solitude, changed my life for a while before I reintroduced myself to really myself more than anything. I didn't know who I was, and I became somebody completely different. And to be where I am today is I'm patting myself on the back and giving myself credit for that. Something that we talked about. But it's important for me to stay focused on the goal. I knew what my goal was in 2019 when I changed. And I lost that for a little bit. But it's hit me. It's hit me really hard starting, 14 months ago, 15 months ago. It struck me like, this is you. So get after it. You know who you are. And since that moment, I ran the worst Torrington Road Race performance that I've ever had. And I went from that moment to best, to best, to best, to best. And I've continued to beat every single race, every distance that I've had thus far, while making excuses for myself and not holding myself 100% accountable. Like I talked about when this initially happened, this was a huge wake-up call for me. As if I didn't have any already by having some poor performances in races, I moved forward in the right direction, but I didn't go all the way. I didn't go all in. And here I am right now looking at what is potentially a month to a couple months of rehab where I am so locked in. I am excited for whatever hard work I'm going to have to do to get back into racing shape. I am determined to be a better runner in 2026 than I was in 2025. That's the goal, and I'm just going to push right through it. That's all I can really do. That's all any of us can really do. I could be discouraged, absolutely, without a doubt. But if I did so much to become this person, why would I move away from that now? Because since I have adopted this lifestyle, nothing but good has come my way. And I don't want to change that. So I'm not changing anything moving forward except for how much I hold myself accountable. And today, I think I've done pretty well. A nice Tuesday where I hit the gym. I took it easy and did shoulders. I'm still spending time on the elliptical, spending my time in the sauna. And here I am pondering upon the last week of the NFL season. We are entering week 5, and this is a turning point in the road. Now, week 5 and week 18, it could seem like we've only gone a third of the way. But we're entering the bye weeks, okay? Teams are starting to get breaks, and we need a break, okay? At this point so far, we'd advanced to 10-7 on the season, which means that we went 3-2 last week on our undefeated teams. There are only 2 undefeated teams that remain in the NFL, and we will get into those in a little bit, but we have to start with our losses. We have to be transparent here. The first thing that threw me way off guard was when the Jacksonville Jaguars jump-started their game in the second quarter. It was started by a Travis Etienne 48-yard touchdown run, and they'd score 17 points before the half was up, and they held on to that lead for the rest of the game. They did so by protecting the ball, which is something I spoke about. I thought San Francisco would have the edge in that factor. Brock Purdy came back. It was his first week back after dealing with turf toe for a couple of weeks, and he throws 2 picks, and the San Francisco 49ers also cough up 2 fumbles, while the Jacksonville Jaguars maintained possession for the rest of the game. They did not let up the ball one time other than fourth down or punting. There was no mistakes. It was probably, in the moment, one of the best games that they've played and they've had to play at this point over the last few seasons. Doug Peterson, he's gone. Liam Cohen's in. It's his first season as head coach, and he wants to make a statement. He wants to change the culture. They had a great team 2 years ago. They had all the pieces. They had all the potential, and they still have those pieces. Travis Etienne is still there. Trevor Lawrence is still leading the pack. You have Josh Allen Hines on the other side of the ball on defense, rushing the passer. He's a great defensive end. they have pieces all over the field in the secondary who are like sneaky great players. And then they introduce Brian Thompson Jr., who gets back in the end zone this week. So congratulations to him for doing that. While Travis Etienne scampered for 124 yards on the ground. They kind of just ran all over the San Francisco 49ers defense and made me eat my words, just like the Giants. The Giants shook up the league, and they shook up the game tape that the Chargers were looking at heading into preparation for this game. They jump out to a lead by halftime and hold the line, shutting down the Chargers in the fourth quarter. The Giants nabbed 2 picks, and Jackson Dart maintained possession of the ball while throwing for a touchdown and running one in. He scrambled for 54 yards and kind of gave a spark and some life to this Giants team that everybody thought was dead. And I understand trotting out Russell Westbrook. I think he's a serviceable quarterback. I think Jameis Winston would have been a lot more fun for this New York Giants team to watch. I think they probably would have been more tolerable losing with Jameis at the helm than Russell Wilson for whatever reason. It may be all personality, but for me, I think Jameis Winston's just got a rocket of an arm and he's fearless. I can see some fear creep into Russell Wilson from time to time when he knows. See, the difference between Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston is that Russell Wilson is so aware of the moment, and Jameis Winston is just so blessed to be alive. He does not care. So that's the difference there. Jackson Dart, just a kid from Ole Miss with a lot of moxie. Reminds me of the last Giants quarterback that won a Super Bowl. Speaking of the last Giants anything to do anything, Malik Neighbors was lost in this game. His season's over. He tore his ACL on the MetLife turf. Another casualty to the MetLife turf during a Chargers game to a first-round wide receiver from LSU. The other one was Odell Beckham Jr. And that really is, it's sad to see because Malik Neighbors over his first 2 seasons so far, and the second season isn't even over, was targeted more than any other wide receiver. He was called upon heavily. He was a huge part of that offense, and it's going to be tough for the Giants to move forward, but they have something tough moving them forward, and that's Cam Skattebo. Not only just a fun name to say, but a rookie demon from Arizona State University who once ran for 500 yards in a high school game. He's got a, what do they call it? A cinder block for a head, and he eats crayons. Cam Skattebo is, he's an absolute dog. Okay, and he ran for 70-plus yards in this game against the Chargers, who have had a tough run defense, and no, did he outperform rookie Omarion Hampton on the Chargers, who ran for 100 yards on 12 carries? No, he didn't, but he did get the win. He got the win. He provided some key blocks for Jackson Dart in his running game, and he toted the rock really, really well. Cam Skattebo is kind of taking over that running back room, and I just think that's because he's an all-in player. That is the show of what determination and grit can bring to a team, to a player. It can add to your skill set. When you're just willing to do anything for the main thing, you become a guy. So there were our 2 losses there. We had a win with Buffalo. They bounced back in the second half because it kind of looked like they were in a dogfight with the Saints there. Except James Cook and Josh Allen continued to wreck the turf, combining for a total of 162 yards on the ground, pulling the will out of the Saints and stopping what could have been an upset. This game was 14-10 at the half. The Bills were favored by 15 points in this game. And, I mean, for them to drop this one to the Saints. Now, for me, like, I understand this is a typical spot for an upset, a trap game. This is kind of one of those games where it's like, are the Bills going to bring out all their tricks against a team that they know sucks? And this is what happens a lot in the league. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. But this was kind of an instance of, going into a game comfortable. They kind of went into this game comfortable, but they ended up dropping 31 points in total and pulling out with the win. So they turned it around. They righted the ships. They righted their wrongs, and they still stuck to everything that they can stick to. Josh Allen threw the ball to virtually everybody with a Bills jersey on, and I can't wait to see that on Sunday. The Colts. I predicted they would lose. I hated predicting that they would lose because I really loved the thrill of riding with the Colts this year. I've kind of been riding with the Colts for the last few years as I've become a fan of the Pat McAfee show. I kind of take on the fandom of a team that I hear about on a daily basis. Pat McAfee, famed punter, played for 9 years and then retired, went on tour doing a stand-up show, got signed by Barstool, and now he's got a talk show on ESPN. I mean, you want to talk about betting on yourself. That's what that guy did. And you could hate his personality. You could think he's too loud, too brash, whatever. Maybe that's why I like him. Reminds me of myself a little bit. Just a loudmouth jerk off with some shit to say. But the Colts lost this game, and I pictured the Rams getting their get back here after losing a tough one to the Eagles the week before. But they actually needed Tutu Atwell to haul in an 88-yarder on busted coverage on a play where the Colts only had 10 players on the field, and Matt Stafford, who is a crafty veteran, I mean, a Super Bowl winning Hall of Famer at the end of his career, sees that they have 10 players on the field, and he just takes his shot and hits Tutu, who hadn't had a catch that whole game, who hadn't had a target that whole game. Tutu Atwell bursted on the scene a couple of years ago, catching a touchdown in virtually every single game you'd bet on Cooper Kupp to score a touchdown. And that's what Matt Stafford does with these guys. He finds the open man, puts the ball in their hand, and lets them do what they do. So he hauled in an 88-yard touchdown, but this was actually after they would have lost the game. Indianapolis scored 14 points that ended up getting completely wiped off the board due to mental lapses. Really, that's all you can call it for A.D. Mitchell, who he's a young upstart talent in the league, but this has kind of been his thing where he shoots himself in his foot. He not only did he have a touchdown catch, and he ran, I think it was a 48-yard or something. It was a long one. It was an explosive play. And he, right before the end zone, he goes to hold out the ball, and the ball falls out of his hands, and he kicks it through the back of the end zone, which, listen, this is a dumb rule. But if you fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone, you lose possession, and the other team starts it at the 20. So he basically went from scoring 6 points and having his field goal kicker come onto the field to giving the ball exactly or handing it right back to the Los Angeles Rams with a little bit of time on the game, which is where Matt Stafford can be really deadly. But needless to say, the Colts are still a team to reckon with this season. They took the Rams all the way down to the wire. The Rams are one of the best teams in the NFC right now, and they have all the pieces. They've had all the pieces, and this is the story of the Colts, is that they've had everything right there, but they never had a consistent quarterback. Okay, they had Phillip Rivers. Ever since Andrew Luck retired early, they went through a carousel. Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. They drafted Anthony Richardson with the 4th pick a couple of years ago. And the professionalism and the mental lapses kind of spread throughout the locker room in Indianapolis until they hired Shane Steichen and changed the culture last year. This year, moving forward with a more veteran and sturdy quarterback in Daniel Jones, who won in a quarterback competition, he's always had the intangibles, the kid from Duke, big brain, great football IQ, but he's fast and he's quick, he can use his feet, and he's got a rocket for an arm. What he never had was an offensive line, and that's not anything he could do about, okay? He can't do anything about that. That's not up to him. He can't be 5 other people while he's the quarterback. What did Giselle say about Tom Brady once? He can't throw the ball to himself. Where'd she go? Anyway, Colts have it all, and I still think they're a team that you don't really want to run into, but then there were the Eagles, okay? This game was a big game on my Sunday to see what the Eagles would do here in this spot against the Buccaneers, and to see what the Buccaneers would do against the Eagles. The Buccaneers have won every single one of their 3 games on a last drive, field goal or touchdown, whatever it is. They've had to score with the ball in their hands in the last possession, and they do it. The Eagles, I don't know what they do. It seems like every game is a setup to be an attrition of will. Almost as if they're playing chess on the field. close to Cillian, perhaps. Shout out to Nick Sirianni. But honestly, the Eagles started this game how they closed their game against the Rams. First thing they do is block a punt and return it for a touchdown. Okay, here we go. We're off and rolling. We're the Philadelphia Eagles fly on the road to victory. But if they're regardless, they score on special teams. So if their offense is really as atrocious as the Johns are claiming it is, then at least they have special teams to count on scoring points. Dallas Goedert, however, hauled in 2 touchdowns early in that game, and the Eagles jumped out to a 24-6 lead by halftime. But then Baker came alive, and Baker does what Baker does best, and he drives a comeback. He starts it in the third quarter. If the Buccaneers hadn't turned over the ball halfway through the third quarter and gave Philly 25 yards into the end zone, it's a possibility they could have won this game. Philadelphia faked a tush push and tossed it over to Saquon Barkley, who had a completely open field to work with, and so he took it 6 yards into the end zone, and he closed this gap, okay, because the Buccaneers scored 19 points in the second half. They were in position to win this game had that touchdown not been scored, but they were still in position to win this game. They were 37 yards away and a 2-point conversion to tie before they were stopped on fourth down. The Eagles showed that they have offensive play calling, but it's not really anything new. So people aren't attributing this to Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator, who people in Philadelphia are really, really pissed off at. Really pissed off. Like, they want this guy fired. The team's 4-0. They want the guy fired. And at this point, like, I can kind of see it, because they aren't getting Saquon going the way they did last year. And if that's the case, if they're not able to do that, maybe relying on the run isn't going to lead to long-term success. At this point in the season, 4 games in last year, Saquon Barkley might have already had 1,000 yards, and right now he has 237. He's tied for 20th with Bucky Irving and Quidshaw Junkins. It's not him, I don't think. It doesn't seem like it's him. He still breaks off great runs. He did in the Rams game, and then he got stuffed as well. It's almost as if the Eagles are so predictable that they just know to pack the box and send everybody in. That's got to change. Or does it? Because the Eagles are winning, and there's seemingly no answer to Philadelphia's dominance. And for the first time this season, their dominance is on display. The Eagles the top 10 power rankings, written by Bucky Brooks, from Fox Sports NFL. We have our top 10 heading into Week 5, and it starts with Indianapolis. Ahead of Indianapolis is Jacksonville. That's interesting to me. And ahead of them is Pittsburgh, which is also very interesting to me. Indianapolis just took their first loss. Perhaps that's what this is going off of. Pittsburgh being ahead of Indianapolis and Jacksonville is kind of interesting to me. Jacksonville even being ahead of Indianapolis. But we'll dive into a little bit more of this as we move on. Because what we're going to do here for Week 5, we're not going to pick any games out. All right? We're going to do something a little bit different. Because not only do we have our power rankings that start with Indianapolis. Number 9 is Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 7 would be the Seattle Seahawks. Number 6, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 5, the Los Angeles Chargers. 4 is the Los Angeles Rams. Number 3, the Detroit Lions. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. And number 1, that dominating team over there in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Eagles. So we have our power rankings. Those come out every week. They always do. But this is an exciting part of the season, because the other thing that we have set up right here is who's going to go to the Super Bowl. We have a playoff standing as the season sits right now that look at the 5 and 4 seeds in the NFC being Seattle and Tampa Bay. 2 and 7, San Francisco and Green Bay, which is always a great playoff matchup. 6-3 would be the Rams taking on the Detroit Lions. Matt Stafford versus his own team and possibly what could be his last season. And the number 1 Philadelphia Eagles getting the bye week in the NFC. In the AFC, the Buffalo Bills will be getting the bye week. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers will have a division rivalry playoff game, as the Chargers would be the number 2 seed in the AFC. Indianapolis gets to take on the Cincinnati Bengals, who at this point in the season, in the playoffs, they would have Joe Burrow back. Joe Burrow is expected to return around December, and if that's the case, they'd be at full strength if they don't trade any pieces away after suffering another loss this week. You also have the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting up there at the 5 and 4 seeds to be playing each other to see who will face the Buffalo Bills. So this, for me, I want to use this to separate the contenders from the pretenders, and the most obvious to me right now is the Cincinnati Bengals. To me, the Cincinnati Bengals are a pretender. When Joe Burrow comes back, what is he going to do? They have absolutely zero offensive line. The Bengals got absolutely smoked last night. Not only by the score of 28-3 by the Broncos, but Jake Browning was on the ground a lot. There was virtually no protection for the guy, and Zach Taylor's play calling has kind of been coming into question. It seems predictable, just like we talked about with the Eagles, except they're not as dominant as Philadelphia is, and they're not able to push around the players like that. I see the Pittsburgh Steelers as contenders. I truly do. And the reasoning behind that I have is how little they've been penalized. When you look at what teams are going to be successful in the playoffs and what teams are going to have long runs, it's always a team that's disciplined. Discipline is the biggest thing. And I mean, discipline could have avoided my Achilles injury. Discipline could have avoided me being slower than I want to be. Discipline can avoid a lot of things. And on the football field, what it avoids is taking away yards. You look at this right here, and there's a reason why I look at the Steelers as contenders and the Jaguars as pretenders right now. In the NFL, the Steelers have acquired the least amount of penalties right now. The Steelers have 19 penalties, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have been a very poor disciplined team, lacking the ability to keep flags off of the field. And that gives away yards to your opponent. In the key to this game, as Mike McDaniel once said, is to score more points than the opponent does. It would be helpful if you buckle up and lock in. The Jacksonville Jaguars have acquired 38 penalties so far through 4 weeks in the season. The Steelers are going into a bye, and they're going into a bye hot. They suffer a loss, and then they bounce right off of the New England Patriots, and then they go across the pond and they dominate the Minnesota Vikings. Steelers look hot right now. As a matter of fact, they look so hot that they are atop the AFC North. They are every other team in the AFC North is 1-3. Actually, no, the Bengals are 2-2, which is probably the only reason why they're in this playoff picture. But the Steelers are sitting pretty at 3-1 right now, going into their bye, with a lot to address still. They're not playing perfect ball right now. Nobody is, but they're running into these little issues and little lapses. Jalen Ramsey looked great against Justin Jefferson on Sunday in Dublin, Ireland. So I'm excited to see what that team of just crafty vets does moving forward. So we have Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. Pittsburgh, contender. Jacksonville, pretender. Cincinnati, pretender. They don't have protection for the quarterback, and they have no running game at all. So it's predictable. We have these two elite weapons in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and we have to find a way to get them the ball. Well, defenses are finding a way to keep the ball out of their hands, and that's not going to look good for the win column for the rest of the season. I don't see the Bengals making the playoffs this year at all. I really don't. There's a lot going on in the AFC, and I think there are a couple teams that are going to surprise us as this playoff picture unfolds moving forward. The Colts are here to stay. The Colts are your AFC South champions. They will be a division champion, much like I predict the Steelers to be. The Ravens, I do see them as contenders. If you have Lamar Jackson on the field, I believe that you're a contender. However, Lamar Jackson is likely to miss 1 to 2 games, possibly 3, with a hamstring injury that he suffered in last week's loss against the Chiefs. So that leads me to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are contenders. They really are. And they showed that in their game against the Ravens. They looked terrible the first 3 weeks of the season. And then they just dominate the Ravens on Sunday. Patrick Mahomes found everybody for a touchdown, everybody except Travis Kelce. But I think that the Chiefs, I mean, when you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes behind center, it doesn't matter who else is on the field. We're watching another version of Tom Brady. We're watching an admiral, like a general on the field, a Peyton Manning, a Ben Roethlisberger, a quarterback that if he's on your team's going to be good, regardless of the things that you have to clean up, which is extremely scary. And I'm hearing that there could be thoughts of a trade for Alvin Kamara. And if you got Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield with Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes needs to buy time, somebody like Alvin Kamara with the ball in their hands is extremely explosive and able to help a team make a run. And they did this last year with DeAndre Hopkins when they brought him in, and they made a run. I'm not sold on the Chiefs sucking. Let's just say that. I think the Chiefs are who we thought they were. And they are a championship team, led by a championship quarterback and a championship coach who have been there plenty of times before. Are they going to win this year? I don't know. But they're not pretenders. They're not playing around. They are the real deal. And I think part of the reason why they've suffered so much is that teams bring their A game against the Chiefs. They know who the Chiefs are. It's a team that's on the bulletin board that you want to beat. The Chargers. Shocking loss to the New York Giants. I have to admit it. But they are contenders. Elite quarterback play out of Justin Herbert right now. And him and Harbaugh are clicking on all corners. And I think they just got thrown off guard by Mojo. Mojo was on the side of the New York Giants on Sunday. And I believe that's really, I mean, an injury can drive a team. We saw it a few times this week. We saw it last week. We saw the 49ers pull one out after Nick Bosa got injured. Done for the season. Team rallies around the fallen soldier. Gets a win. The Giants, they rally around Malik Neighbors. Get a win. The Dolphins, in one of the most gruesome injuries, Tyreek Hill's season is over, and the Dolphins push forward. They score on that drive, and they beat the Jets last night, 27-21. So, I think an injury can rally a team, and I think there was just energy. Energy is a real thing, and sometimes statistics and analysis doesn't take that into effect. And I think the Giants had energy on their side on Sunday, and that's what kept the Chargers from winning that game. So they are contenders. This is going to be hot. But they're pretenders. The Green Bay Packers are pretenders, and I'm coming to an epiphany here with this one. I think that the Green Bay Packers are pretenders because they always are. They win a Super Bowl once every decade, except for the last one, and maybe times are changing. The Green Bay Packers have no receivers. The Green Bay Packers have a running back that they're not able to use the right way. The Green Bay Packers have a good quarterback who kind of gets lost in the moment, much like Russell Wilson. He understands the value of the moments that he's in, and he tries to make the most happen. And he's caused quite a bit of errors over the last couple of weeks that make me wonder: is Jordan Love mature enough in the league to be able to lead this team to a playoff run? As of right now, after suffering a loss to the Browns and then going on to tie the Cowboys, I just don't think I don't think their defense is playing up to par to be an absolute contender. And I also don't think they have enough offensive firepower to be a contender. I think they're going to run into a bunch of tough teams because we have to go through the rest of this gauntlet. The number 6 Los Angeles Rams are contenders. Championship winning quarterback, a scheme that is it's not like it's an unbeatable scheme, but it's a scheme that dinks and dunks and takes the life out of the defense every drive and makes everything difficult to stop. You don't know what's coming next with the Los Angeles Rams. You don't know who's coming next with the Los Angeles Rams. Tutu Atwell last week breaks off an 88-yard touchdown. That's something that people are expecting Devontae Adams or Puka Nacua to do. Kyron Williams is one of the most serviceable running backs in the league. If I pull this up right now, I believe he's one of the top rushers. He ran for 94 yards last week, and he ran for another 90 against the Eagles, and they're not afraid to hand the ball off to him. Yeah, he's 7th in the league, 303 yards, top 10 running back, only 100 yards behind the number 1 spot. So, whoa. Yeah, he's only 100 yards behind the leading rusher in the league, and he's coming into form. And speaking of form, they also have Blake Corum, who's just a little wrecking ball, okay? One of those muscle hamsters you don't want running into you, who loves to run into you. So, I think they have what they need in the backfield, not just to take some pressure off of Matt Stafford and get some good valuable runs in the game, but also to help with pass protection. Both these guys can block their asses off. Everybody on that team seems to be so bought in. And then you have a versatile weapon like Jared Verse on the defensive side of the ball, who is just such a game wrecker. He's not like a carbon copy. He's not the same type of player as an Aaron Donald, but he's motivated by the legacy that Aaron Donald left behind on that Los Angeles Rams team. And this could possibly be Matt Stafford's last march. So what is he going to bring? Especially if he's going to go into it against the Detroit Lions. Now, will this be the seeding moving forward? I'm not sure, but I do think the Lions will retake the NFC North this year and run away with it. I think the Lions are the same new Lions that they've been for the last couple of years. Dan Campbell's shown that. They showed that last week with a dominant victory over the Cleveland Browns. And if we do football math here, if now the Packers beat the Lions and then the Browns beat the Packers, so that means that the Browns should be able to beat the Lions, but they didn't. So, was that week 1 game a fluke? That's football math. We just broke it down for you. I think the Lions have everything you want in a football team. They have trick plays. They have gumption going for it on 4th down. They have a football coach who will gnaw a kneecap off. They have a wide receiver who will say dirty words into the camera without any fear and then go give his post-game interview in German. We have 2 running backs that are just dynamic in what they can do. Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a speedy, elusive, shifty back who's got some good sides to him, but he's got more speed. And then you have David Montgomery, a smaller back, another muscle hamster back who will run right through your face. You don't want to run into those guys. You have Sam Laporta on the edge of the line who can block his ass off and also go run a route and catch a million balls. You have wide receivers out the wazoo. Everybody in Detroit is a weapon. Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raymond. It doesn't matter what your name is on the back of your jersey. If the front says Lions, you're a dog and you're a player. And I will be full-heartedly behind the Lions all season. I love this team. I really do love this team. Then you have the Seahawks, who I think win the NFC West. I think they win the NFC West over San Francisco. I had faith in San Francisco. I really, really did. And then I saw them lose to Jacksonville, who I believe is a pretender. Like one of the worst disciplined teams in the league pulls out a win against you in a dominating fashion, really. It just seemed like San Francisco didn't have a chance. It seems like their players are Pardon me. It seems like their players are just antsy. They're pissed off. They're starting fights. They're not. 49ers aren't really that disciplined either, apparently. So I see the 49ers at that 2 seed as pretenders. As much as they've been contenders year in and year out, the absence of George Kittle has really hurt this team this season, and the absence of Nick Bosa is also going to continue to hurt this team this season. And I get that Kyle Shanahan's a great head coach. I'll give that to him. I really will. But I think we're starting to see what's going on in San Francisco. And maybe people were right about Brock Purdy. Maybe Mac Jones should end up back in those games. I don't know. I'm just saying. Just a Patriots fan, just saying. But yeah, the Seahawks are contenders. Hands down. Their defense is dominant. They're dominating. They have the most turnovers in the league, and they have a terrifying pass rush. Like Leonard Williams is just a massive man. And if I was playing quarterback, I would not want this guy running full speed towards me, completely, virtually unblocked. The Cardinals, they're not really panning out to be a super explosive team, which is like, that's what you depend on them for. Like, you look at Kyler Murray, like, this has to be the season of his life. First round draft pick, could have gone and played in the MLB and not played every single game and made hundreds of millions of dollars, but he decided to be the face of a franchise. And this is the type of thing that you have to deal with when you're the face of a franchise. You're going to get criticized. You're going to get ridiculed. You're going to want to play Call of Duty. You probably shouldn't play Call of Duty, but there you are, playing Call of Duty. I realized that this hasn't been up the whole time. I don't know why while recording this episode it kept stopping me from continuing to record this episode. But yeah, the Seahawks are the real deal, and so are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to run away with the NFC South. Now that the Falcons did come back and have a great game this last week, I don't see them as contenders. I think that they're still too young. I think a lot of this list here is just experience. The Packers are young. Who's left on the 49ers are young. And then you have the Eagles, who are contenders, seemingly playing football the same way the Patriots always played football, pulling wins out of their asses and just, I don't know. It's like frustrating watching the Eagles play, watching the Eagles win sometimes. What are we? How are we? I don't understand how it all works, but they make it work. And that would be your playoff picture. And I like how this looks out, because I will say, I have a couple tickets in for Super Bowls where I just woke up one morning and I said, this team's going to win the Super Bowl. I have a feeling. And it was the Lions. And it was the Bills, and both of them are at the head of the division. They left out the Patriots, who I think the Patriots have a great chance of sneaking in to a number 6 spot, or a number 7 spot. I think they have a great chance at sneaking in after their, look at me, shoehorning Patriots talking. I don't know. We'll really see Sunday when the Buffalo Bills take on the Patriots in Buffalo. They'll be wearing some cool white jerseys, and I will be watching the game in bliss. I'll save the threads for next week. I talked a lot about football this week, and I think that it suffices for a good episode. I mean, here I am. I talk about whatever I want to talk about. All right, who cares? You don't have to like it. I do. As always, the links are always in the description. There weren't really many links, but I have a couple here for the graphics that I showed in this episode. And there's a link in my description to follow along with my training for Strava. You can follow along as I'm rehabilitating through this ankle mishap, whatever the hell is going on in there. But I'm going to get it figured out, and I'm going to do everything I set out to. Just like you should too. No matter how many bumps in the road you run across, no matter how many obstacles, no matter what it is, there's a way around it or there's a way through it. Just keep on pushing. And as always, it's all love. God bless.
I always do that. I'm in that rider. Every time that a chord hits midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.